All right, here are our maps, Staceless. We're going to start on Dust Towers, Orbital Shipyard, Ruins of Ceres, then Ro.60, our new GSL map, and then Lairlock Crest.
And it's going to be fun to see some more PvZ so far. I've casted a good amount of TvZs here in Legacy of the Void, and TvZ early game operates a little bit differently, but it tends to be when you get into about mid-game or late game, you have similar types of skirmishes. The end game also does change a good amount. PvZ, though, there's a lot of tools that Protoss can use, specifically with the Adept.
Yeah.
We've seen the Adept really beat up Zergs, and I would like to say it's because the creep's not connected between the bases and why the Queens can't catch it, but it's not even that.
You know,
it's that the Adept is just so mobile, and the Zerg, in this case, is not.
It's always basically like the Adept can be theoretically in two places at once, because when you chase the Shade, you don't know if he's even going to teleport there because he can cancel it, and then you've sent your Lings somewhere else and wasted their damage because they're not even where the Adept actually is. It's very difficult to deal with in the early game, especially without Ling speed. And, you could poke and then run away with them if you have a small group of them. It's very, very dangerous.
And Stat's always been a player that has had his own builds. He's not somebody who's a practitioner of better players' builds. This guy definitely might have his own strats that Departure might not be ready for. Anyways, we're going to go into game number one. It's a best of 5. Stats against Departure here in today's GSL Codex. In the bottom left, in the blue, he is.
K-First stage.
And his opponent in the upper right, in the red.
MVP 치킨 마루 Departure.
Departure's got a lot of fans here, actually, in the studio cheering for him. Now, Departure actually won an overseas tournament. I believe it was Gfinity last year at the end of Heart of the Storm, ended up being KT first in that finals. That's his biggest achievement, I'd say, in StarCraft 2 ever. I think he had all year last year, like no more than maybe 5 or 6 wins in Pro League. But he was fielded a lot. He has a lot of booth experience, but I think he's one of those guys that gets a bit nervous on the stage. And let's see how he does today. It would be a pretty big upset if he beats Stats here.
Yeah, that would be pretty exciting. It's got to start somewhere, I'll admit, first and foremost that I tend to side with the previous results of other games, but I'm always happy to be wrong, to be proven wrong, because you got to have these players come up out of somewhere.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have the exact same players since the beginning of StarCraft, always at the top, and it's not been that case. It's been a fluctuation of different players. Sometimes some stay on top more than others, but everybody gets a moment where they get to come up. And Nesty is a perfect example. He was a B team player in Brood War.
Yeah, he was like mostly a 2v2 player.
Mostly a 2v2 player, that's correct. And eventually left the team and then got on his own and became a GSL champion. So
yeah, and at his age, it's incredible as well. As one of the oldest pro gamers we actually had.
Yeah, I think he was my age now when he won that back then.
Yeah,
insane,
crazy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
So it looks like it's going to be double Adept off these gateways after an expand, so it's not the quickest Adepts you can get, but it's going to be obviously quite a bit of pressure here from Stats. And Departure went triple hatch, so he's got a great economy that needs to be harassed basically for Stats. Like if he doesn't do some damage here, he's going to find himself behind.
Well, one thing to note, though, is that Protoss actually can there's several options as far as I can tell for Protoss here. They can attack and harass while expanding. They can mass up several gateways, and they might do that depending on how much damage they actually inflict during the attack. They also have the option to tech up, and I think this is really where it's a bit of a gray area for most Zergs. It's not totally clear what the other player is going to do, and it looks like, by the way, Departure is setting up. He's got some Lings here at the ramp. I think he wants to force a Shade to at least activate there at the ramp. Versus whatever he sees it as the most convenient for him, and he's going to do that now. The Lings are going to... Okay, this is actually great defense by Departure.
Yeah, because that way he forces the cancel here.
Yeah.
The Adepts cannot accomplish anything.
Yeah, exactly. So, great, at least, tactical defense there, and it looks like the Shades may actually clone into... No. So, causing a minor disturbance. But behind this, kind of like I was saying, Protoss can just expand on this, and Zerg has to be on his toes.
Yeah, that's true, and expansions are so important right now in Legacy of the Void. You have to expand quicker than you would in other games. The game starts faster. You know, you have a lot more money than you would at this time of the game in the past. So taking this expansion, holding on to it, getting those pylons up so you can overcharge to hold on against any you know, aggressive pressure. Now, almost every Protoss right now, it seems to be, is deciding that the follow-up to this adept pressure is double Stargate Phoenix. It really does eliminate the possibility, the worry of Mutalisk when you don't have that many gateway units that have anti-air. But it looks like it's just going to be Roach play overall from Departure to start things off.
Getting a Forge here as well. There is a moment where Zerg does have the opportunity with, you know, the beefiness of the Roaches. They can come in and start to do a pretty good amount of damage, and it's a transitional window timing here for Protoss where they're trying to switch into these Stargates, and they might not have the necessary defense. And we do see the 9 Roaches, I believe it is, hatching, and 18 Lings following that up. So he's going to have to get a good amount of cannons. In some cases, we see players get Void Rays here, but it looks like he's going to go with Phoenixes. Sometimes you can get the Void Rays to hold off Roaches, but
yeah,
obviously
he's
Void
do
Rays.
that now.
Okay, there it is. It is the Void Rays.
Yeah, he just scouted it right before, or like right after you said that, and then you like immediately did exactly what you're suggesting.
Damn, I'm good.
You're good, Tasteless.
Damn, I'm good, guys.
That's the way, though, because these Void Rays are obviously going to be very powerful versus these armored Roaches, and also decently powerful versus the Ravagers. It's going to take a lot of micro. This is a very powerful all-in here from Departure. You know, if you look at his worker count, he's got 11 less Harvesters than stats.
And this seems to be the direction this matchup's been going, at least for the time being. He's got to be careful. Those Ravagers can gun down Mothership Core or Void Rays as an example pretty easily. Oh man, this is a lot of links coming in here now.
Force Field's very late here, in fact, and all of those ground units are going to get surrounded. Sentries are going to go down here too, and 2 Void Rays is definitely going to eventually push this back with the rest of the Void Rays coming out. But
yeah, I mean, the Force Fields being as late as they are is a serious problem. Also, we took out the pylons that were activated as cannons. Nice job there with the Ravagers. There are 24 Lings on the way, by the way, coming up here right now. The pylon does go down. Not many more pylon cannons left here. Yep. The Nexus under heavy assault.
Now, this base is not mining at all. He will eventually get through this, but the problem is that, you know, will this actually be enough damage? Because he's going to get this Nexus eventually here, but he has very little drones back at home. He doesn't have any tech. He's just now starting his lair. He's going to actually kill this Nexus easily, and I think this is just barely enough damage, but I think he'll have to transition here, Tasteless.
This is a big problem right now. He's been locked out of the Robo Bays, and actually the Robo Bays are going to be destroyed here as well, which completely interrupts the next phase of his tech. So he's got no Nexus, at least at his expansion.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the worker count. It's 54 to 52, so they're even on that front. But overall, that attack was a huge success.
Yeah, it was. He killed the Nexus. I'm glad you pointed out the double Robos died there as well, because those aren't usually at the third base. They're usually you know, tucked away in a more safe location. But he loses so much you know, money in that. But more importantly, he loses so much time that he doesn't have these important units that he's going to need next.
Yeah, there's a degree of predictability now coming here from the Protoss, because obviously he's completely choked out one of the Protoss's tech. So Zerg should be able to prepare for this with ease. The Void Rays are going to come up here now. The Mothership Core is not far behind.
Yeah,
he's just probably going to see if there's any openings where he can do damage. I think most good Zerg players would easily deflect this.
Yeah, like the most he could ever hope for, I think, in this case would be to like target down an Extractor and then walk away, or maybe get the spawning pool here. That would be nice, but even that's going to be difficult. There's even a Spore Crawler nearby. Let's see, he might actually be able to get this. There's a few transfuses available.
By the way, there is a Roach Hydra being teched up to here. So there is probably going to be a pretty strong follow-up if he deems it appropriate to actually attack in here. 4th base is being taken at the center right for Zerg.
Yeah, and that's actually been scouted too.
Oh yeah, good call there. Yeah, it was actually spotted by those Phoenixes. So Protoss is aware of this. He has started the double Robo Tech here. There are some Immortals being cranked out, and that is to combat the Roaches, at least for this phase of the game.
Yeah, they're quite powerful as a follow-up here. Now, Stats is going to just pick off a few drones here, eliminates all those gas drones, is going to walk away. He knows that the base is coming up, but it's not actually running right now, so he can, you know, maybe catch some transferring drones a little bit later. He's only going to stay at 4 Phoenixes because that'll keep him safe against like a few Mulas that come out, but he'll have enough time with the Stargate still alive to transition if that ends up being the case. And he's basically building a composition that has, oh, we're going to lose a Phoenix. Actually going to lose 2 Phoenixes. But he's building a composition that can deal with a heavy ground army with roaches in it, and also the High Templar when they come out can deal with, oh god, so many Overlords going down, but it can deal with the Hydralisk, and then perhaps later on Lurkers.
You know what I think is probably going to be happening coming up here? Hold up, let's see if he gets these Phoenixes. Phoenixes just push back. Nice defense, keeping that Overlord alive. He's probably just going to try to smash the 4th base for Protoss at speed. He's attempting to install that in over here. Because he's made a bunch of Immortals and its Zealots, you know, at this point in time, ranged Zerg units are just going to be pretty strong, especially since it's not a Roach-dependent army right now. It's mostly Hydra Ravager, and this is not a nimble Protoss army, so he is at risk of being hit with corrosive bile.
Yeah, I think the only weakness of maybe the Zerg army is Force Fields, but because now that he has Ravagers, this is before he just made all his Ravagers, now the Ravagers stop that, and he can easily zone this army out. And this is without Lurkers, without a Lurker Den even, and that base had to be canceled. And he's even going to commit into fighting this Protoss army.
Well, I think it's because he can actually, yeah, look, this is what we saw in the trailer for Legacy of the Void, guys. The force fields are being taken out. Yep. And it does go to show you that you can push in pretty hard. Because he's sticking in this, like, Tier 2 tech, sometimes Zergs just try to end it. They max out and try to stampede over their opponent. And we may be seeing that coming up right here.
That's very delicate what the Protoss has to do right now. He has to make sure he doesn't get hit by those biles.
Can I point out, I just love that he's targeting down pylons with some of those corrosive biles.
Yeah.
Since you can't dodge that at all, obviously, with a pylon. Not until the next expansion, guys, where pylons can move. Yeah, he's coming here. He's taking out the Immortals. He's taking out the Void Rays. So he's taking out these really central tech units that are the staple of, you know, a representation of mid-game tech here for Protoss. And so after these 2 Immortals are picked off, if they're picked off, it's going to be almost impossible for Stats to hold this.
He's just going to eventually get overwhelmed because he doesn't have that 4th base up anymore. His main base is mining out. His natural is mining out. And the 3rd base he has is really the critical base. You're going to see some Phoenixes try to help out here. Going to trade a Phoenix or a Raptor. Not even that good. But the transition points for departure are insane. He has so many different potential follow-ups. They could also just keep crashing in with these units as well.
This is really gutsy here by Stats to actually aggressively try to expand out here. It's probably the only thing he really can do. But it's going to be very tough. As you can see, Zerg can basically set his army up in a bit of an arc here and get a good concave around the Protoss' army when he tries to leave this giant ramp.
Yeah, even with storms here, the Zerg army is double the army supply of Stats.
Yeah, Protoss might be able to hold on for a while, but expanding, I really don't think so. It's going to be very difficult. Nice micro here as he does dive in. Departure taking out these Immortals one by one. Still, though, good Immortal presence overall in the back. Queen's actually coming up here now, really indicating how final Departure thinks this attack is.
Well, the Immortals' barriers are down now, Tesa, so they're actually going to have to, you know, crab scuttle back here into the base, into the natural, and he will survive. But again, how much longer how many more waves of this can he actually handle? He's stuck on 3 bases. He doesn't have that much of an economy behind this. He's out of money. He's making a Dark Shrine right now. He's really desperate to find some damage on the other side of the map. And there are already, you know, several Spore Crawlers on the map too, so I'm not sure how well that's going to do.
Nice feedback there on the Queen, zapping him. Corrosive Biles being shot down right now. Zerg, once again, approaching maxing out, is continuing like it's a single player or something to just run over the remaining Protoss army. And it does appear that it's working.
Absolutely, Tasos. This is going to be perhaps the final battle here as the Protoss army starts to fade away. One Morphing Archon is all that remains. GG.
Nicely done there by Departure. That time and attack, it worked out very well. I'm wondering if, if Stats is going to go for a more aggressive Adept build. He went into an Adept pressure opening, followed up with an expand.
It was a very safe build as well, and Departure played an insanely greedy opening and then just put on the aggression with, like, once he hit like 45, 46 drones, it was just roaches, 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 a few Ravagers and then more roaches, and he had a ton of speedlings as well with that initial attack.
I also wonder if maybe the timing of the double Stargate is maybe too greedy. It did not seem like there was very much that Protoss could do when Zerg had the well, you know, all the lings, the roaches.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Like, it was a bit awkward, the timing of that.
I just looked at it. I thought, man, there's no way that you're going to be able to get in there. Granted, the force fields by Stats were pretty bad, maybe with perfect force fields, it could have worked, but I'm not sure.
Those
I'm not
force
sure.
fields were also a problem. I'm glad that you mentioned that too, because that's one of those things where we didn't talk too much about it, but that specific moment, it would have been hard for Stats to hold no matter what, even if his force fields were like OGSMC godlike force fields. But those small mistakes can actually change the course of a game very rapidly. Departure was like, boy, looking at this going, wow, this is actually going to be so much easier for me to do damage than I originally anticipated, seeing those sentries in the army.
And we're now going into game number 2 on Orbital Shipyard. Stats Departure. A lot of people, me included, thought Stats was going to win this pretty easily, but Departure is playing very, very well. So let's see if he